Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you, Chase, for joining us today and everyone who is here for the second day of the Graduate School Conference. Super excited for everyone who's able to attend, also for everyone who is watching this recording. Just hopefully gives you an idea of really what grad school is and kind of the intricate pieces that go into that. So I am just going to be here to moderate the conversation. If any questions pop up, feel free to put them in the chat. But yeah, we're just here to introduce Chase as our keynote speaker. And so just a brief bio. So Chase is the career education manager for the College of Veterinary Medicine and Biomedical Science. Chase has been working in career education for Colorado State University for 8 years. Before joining the Career Center, Chase has had several years of experience working with individuals regarding personal growth and development. Chase lives to help individuals see their place in the world of work in a meaningful and authentic way. Through experience working as a professional career counselor and career education instructor, he has come to understand and value how career identities interact with personal career wellness. So thank you, Chase, and I will go ahead and pass it over to you.
All right, thanks. I just want to, it's a new day, so I think it's important to read the acknowledgement. And so let's, okay, somebody in the right room, can I admit them? Woohoo! All right, we're growing, people. Yeah, so let's start with reading the acknowledgement before our session starts today. So Colorado State University acknowledges with respect that the land we are on today is traditional and the ancestral homelands of the Arapaho, Cheyenne, and Ute nations and peoples. This is also a site of trade, gathering, and healing for numerous other Native tribes. We recognize the indigenous people as stewards of this land and all relatives within it. As these words of acknowledgement are spoken and heard, the ties of nations have their traditional homelands are renewed and reaffirmed. CSU is founded as a land-grant institution, and we accept that our mission must encompass access to education and inclusion, and significantly, that our founding came from the dire cost of Native populations and peoples whose land this university was built upon. This acknowledgement is the education and inclusion we must practice in recognizing our institutional history, responsibility, and commitment. All right, welcome everyone. We have a lot to get through today, but what I always do is check in with you. And so I'm highly interruptible. We have a great, many students in terms of we could really develop some great discussion here today. And I was hoping that it wouldn't be too big, too small, but it's just right. Thank you for coming to the session today. I hope, I always learn from you. So please tell me your thoughts and how you feel about the content presented, because this is information that I take back to students. I'm a licensed professional career counselor here in the state of Colorado, working with the Career Center in Colorado State University. Every year I have to re-accredit my license, and I'm blown away by the hours that I rack up with students. And so at this point in my career, I have sat with students for about 20,000 hours, right? Talking about career, talking about grad school, and how to get them to their next steps, whether it be professional school, graduate school, and what that means in connecting that to career. And so today I want to, the theme of today is when we think about the topic of graduate school, it usually comes with the question, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? And that is a really common most students have, really common question most students have. And I want to disarm that question because it's such a heavy burden to carry, right? And so instead of thinking about where I want to be in the next 5 to 6 to 20 years, whatever that looks like, most of us in this room, except for me, have, probably 45 to 30 years of work ahead of them, right? So there's lots of decisions to be made in moving forward in what to do next. And so let's change our frame of mind instead of what do I want to do the rest of my life? What can I do next? And that is what our topic is today as it relates to career, is what you can do next in thinking about pursuing graduate school or not. So I had a poll. I won't pull it up because we have such a small number, but I want to read you a couple things on what are good reasons to go to graduate school. And as I was thinking in preparing for this presentation, here are the 3 reasons that come up constantly as I'm working with students, because graduate school is becoming extremely popular topic in my sessions, in my advising, counseling with students right now. And that makes sense. Why does that make sense? For those of you out there, why is grad school, the chatter of grad school is becoming extremely popular right now? Well, one good reason is the economy. There is less confidence in our economy. During the Great Recession in 2008, when I graduated from school, I thought, I'll go get a degree and my ticket will be punched. I was a non-traditional student, first generation student. I came to CSU when I was about 23, 24, and I had worked construction and a bunch of, jobs here in Colorado before I was like, I think school has to be easier than this. And so went back to school, graduated during the Great Recession, and there were no jobs anywhere. It was really a terrible time. Ended up finding an internship, ended up working for the town of Truckee. Anybody from California? It's a little small town on I-80. Had a great job there working in recycling and stormwater management, and got a note from the state of California that I should stop my work because funding was absolutely dried up. And so from then I moved back to Fort Collins and worked the job. I worked in undergrad as a college student. And I thought, man, this is really, how depressing is this? I go to school, spend all this money. I borrowed all the way through school. So I was paying these huge student loans at the same time. And I thought there has to be a better way. And so I went and hid from the economy in graduate school. And looking back on it, it was a great decision because what I learned and what many students are figuring out, those students that graduated in 2006 and current students that have graduated, is the economy has become very specialized. With my anthropology degree, I was being retrained over and over again from all of the jobs that I was taking and leaving, right? And so one thing I think graduate school can bring to your tool of expertise post-undergraduate degree is a specialization, my graduate degree is in counseling and career development. I can take that degree from shore to shore in the United States and probably globally, with a couple of languages on board. And so that is something to think about as you think about approaching graduation. Is we live in a service economy post the industrial age, right? The industrial revolution, where goods and services are being sold as ideas, right? Whether it be Facebook, whether it be consulting, the economy has changed. And so how can we change with it to weather economic recessions, right? So as you're approaching graduation, that's one thing to think about. Maybe you don't need to go to graduate school after undergrad, but how can you get experience in making that decision to go to graduate school or not? All right. And so where do decisions come from? Because we're all in the business right now of predicting the future, right? Raise your hand if you're trying to predict the future post-graduation or even tomorrow, right? We are trying to do that, right? And so that's what our discussion is about. How can we predict the future, make it a good decision, and where do those decisions come from in pursuing graduate school, right? And the value of that and how it's connected with our career. And so let's get back to our questions on the 3 best reasons to go to graduate school I'm hearing right now. So the top reason right now that I'm hearing from students that of the reason why they should pursue graduate school is I'm very comfortable with school. I'm not sure what the economy looks like, and I know how to do school. Reason number one. Reason number two is if I don't go now, I will never go. Reason number three is the recession and the economy and COVID. If I don't go now, I will never go. Right? Those are the three most common reasons of why I should pursue graduate school. And I think those are all good reasons. I think with COVID, it presents an opportunity to stay in school, to apply to graduate programs, because if you think about the return on investment, if you went out and you took a job that was unrelated to your education, and it was maybe serving at a restaurant, then that money that you've lost from using that degree will be hard to recoup later on, right? I think with the exception is if you were a literature major and you wanted to get a master in literature, right? The return on investment would deserve a discussion there. So we're going to talk about two great ways today in making the decision to go to grad school. All right, so find your thumbs up on your LinkedIn, or not your LinkedIn, but your Zoom menu. I'm going to read you a job description. And when you wouldn't take that job description, I want you to give the party hat, all right? So after every description of the job, if you would take that job, I want you to give me a thumbs up, right? All right, here we go. All right, the job pays about $40,000 to $50,000 a year. Would you take that job? Okay. No, everybody, all right, okay. The job has good benefits in health insurance. Now, with that $40,000 to $50,000 a year, health insurance is worth about 10 grand a year. Your employer pays often, sometimes half of what it would cost per month to keep health insurance. You get to work with a variety of people, okay? That's a pretty easy one. Everybody still in? All right, give me a thumbs up. You work in stylish and luxurious surroundings. What job could this be? All right, everybody still in? You meet many famous people. Strange. All right, some of us like celebrities. You work in a fast-paced environment. Okay, everybody still in? All right. You do a lot of standing around. Okay. Got some gritty people out there. Uh-oh. You must wear a uniform. Okay. You work under a lot of pressure. You hear many complaints from people. You must work long shifts, including some weekends and holidays. Uh-oh, it's becoming a problem. You're monitored frequently by your boss, and some people might think of this job as immoral. So thumbs up if you're still in and you would apply and take this job. Okay, quick discussion. As I was reading the job description, what came up for you there? When were you out? What was it, and when were you out? I'm out.
I think I made an assumption that by like by doing a lot of standing, I feel like I'd just be like a door person
Mhm.
and just say like hi and bye. I wouldn't be out, but I'm like questioning it, I feel like. And then when it came to like being a night owl and working long shifts, I think that's where I was out.
We got one comment in the chat based on personal experience. So some of you have had maybe a job like this before. And so really quick, what job was I describing? Could anyone guess what job this was? It was a Vegas blackjack dealer in Las Vegas. But here is the connection here is this describes many, many jobs. So step one in deciding if graduate school is right for you and how it relates to your career is you have to consult values, interest in your identities, and how you want to spend your time. Now, if you think about your experience in undergrad now and all of those messages you got from people that you have been around throughout your time in school, I'm going to admit one more to the waiting room. Hi, Betty. Welcome.
Hi, hello. Sorry, I'm late.
No, you're good. Yeah, we're just having a discussion about how values, interest, identities, and how you want to spend time relates to pursuing a graduate degree and a career. All right, I think I'm going to spend time with Betty later on today on career exploration as in the STEM fields. So welcome, thanks for joining. And so how can we get to this? How can we really discover our values and how we connect with work? Because if you spend a couple years getting a graduate degree or a PhD, you have to be certain that this is something that you want to do. Part of that is if, for example, I work with a lot of students talking about their past work history, as someone noted in the comment section. Based on personal experience, they know that this job that I just described would not be for them. You can also take strengths assessments and strong interest inventories. These are critical assessments, I think, in gathering data on how you can apply your values, your identities, and your interest to your graduate degree. And so that data point is really important to really consider as you consider pursuing graduate school. I'm going to drop a link into the chat from an economist that presented last week from Michigan State University. His name is Dr. Phil Gardner. And this is some of the most recent data available as it relates to what's happening with college recruiting. Who is getting hired out of college at the most intense rates as it relates to master's degrees, undergraduate degrees, and associate degrees. And why is that important? Because as you're pursuing a graduate degree, really understanding where the market is going and the demand for that degree is critical. So I'm going to drop that into the chat. I think that is a pretty current resource. It's a long read too, but I think it's an important resource to consider as you're trying to determine what's happening with hiring out of graduate school. Because graduate school is expensive, right? Graduate school is an investment that you're going to make, that you want to make sure that there's job viability out there. So I'm dropping that in the chat. That is a resource connected with this presentation, Economist by Dr. Phil Gardner. And so if you went to the summary and you read this summary, here's what kind of comes to light. The market right now during COVID, and this has been happening since the Great Recession, is it's preferring hands-on experience over education, right? And so, my general advice to any student that shows up in my office inquiring about graduate school, and I have seen probably 3 of those students this week. They're graduating in December. And they're sure they want to go to graduate school, but there's some alarms sounding in their head. I don't know what I want to study. I'm not sure what I want to pursue. I'm burnout on school is a very common response as well. So how can you maximize your investment on going to graduate school? Often 2 to 3 years of experience out of college will give you the wisdom and the experience to make a better decision in going to graduate school, and the returns on your salary and your competitiveness out of graduate school is often increased as well. What we see up here is recent data by the Labor Department. A lot of my students who are having difficulty finding jobs right now, you should pursue the COVID response. There's a lot of money being dumped into addressing the pandemic. And so these jobs that we're looking at right now are these jobs are growing exponentially right now. As we know, a lot of the service industries right now, hotel, hospitality, has disintegrated pretty much, has dumped a lot of jobs. And so again, as you're thinking about the questions I want to answer in the world of work, who am I as an individual? What are my identities? What do I value? That is an important puzzle piece to answering the question of what to pursue and how that can align with a career. Cybersecurity is growing exponentially. Anything in healthcare. If you think about one of the largest generations right now, the baby boomers, they are entering into the healthcare system because of health reasons, right? Anything in healthcare is exploding right now. So graduate degrees can be highly successful in obtaining jobs if they're related to these growing industries that we're currently seeing right now. For the first time in a long time, associate degrees are beating bachelor degrees. I find that interesting, but here is what we're seeing in this, that economic report I just posted, is that employers are preferring experience. Typically at two-year colleges with associate degrees, it's a hands-on experience. So something to consider when pursuing graduate degrees. All right, I'm gonna stop and check in with you just for a moment.
Chase, there was a question in the chat about what about the helping professions?
Mm-hmm. And so helping professions, I would kick into the bucket of healthcare, counseling, social work, exploding. I got lucky. My industry is exploding. So anything that rides on the periphery of healthcare services, social work being one of those, and what type of a profession in the helping professions? I'm curious of what what was the context of the question. Was it social work, counseling?
Social work.
Social work, yeah. Social work is growing exponentially right now because of the pandemic and the consequences of that in families right now. Great question. What are some? I just want to check in with you. What are some other questions about where the economy is going in those graduate degrees that are in high demand right now? Okay, so let's talk about some upsides and why it matters right now to obtaining more education or not, right? And so we all probably agree that the correlation between years in school and earning power are related, right? And note to self, one exception here is, liberal arts right now are having a hard time finding jobs as I'm working with them. And I'm still recommending that they find ways to use their degree in addressing the pandemic, because we just don't know how long it will last. With any healthcare services, there's jobs that are connected with communication, marketing within hospitals and healthcare providers, they hire liberal arts students en masse. They really do. Another upside of continuing education is expanding your learning community. You know, being in school is networking. Within your graduate program, you're surrounded by faculty, you're surrounded by students who are interested in similar things that you're interested in, and they have connections outside of the department too. So that's a great upside to continuing education, is the people you're surrounded by, the experts that are doing things that you want to do. And time is on your side, like we mentioned earlier. You have plenty of work ahead of you. If you stayed in school and you continued the life that you're currently living right now, right? And getting into a master's program. And I think we're in a really sweet window right now. I think in what we're seeing at the Career Center is that the applications as it relates to graduate school are going to grow exponentially moving forward. Probably the next application cycle, fall 2021, there will be a surge in those seeking graduate school. So the upsides, you know, there's a correlation between years in school and earning power, those networking opportunities you can get in graduate programs, and there's plenty of time. You have plenty of working life left in most cases to spend an extra couple years in school. Let's talk about the downsides. You know, you've probably noticed that if you want to go to graduate school, thinking about it does not solve the question, right? Thinking about it does not solve the question. Only wisdom and getting more experience beyond your undergraduate degree can help in refining that decision. If returns don't match investment in time, right? If you're seeking a graduate degree for an industry that is experiencing no growth, then that is a discussion worth having. You know, part of my value system in seeking continuing education was, you know, I came from a first generation. I was first gen college student. Nobody in my family had an education, and so I was attracted to it because it was something that was so unique in my mind. And a lot of students want to go to school simply because they value education. I think that is a good reason to pursue a graduate degree. You know, there's cost involved there, but those of us at the Career Center and your advisors across campus obviously are here to kind of problematize that and work through that decision-making process. But that can be a great reason to go because you simply value education. And I work with a lot of students doing that, who are considering that. A lot of our students right now are experiencing academic burnout. A lot of the students I'm working with right now are stressed. We all are. This is a very unique time in the world of work, in the world of higher ed, right? It's interesting that we all have experienced this switch that has been flipped in the way that we think about work and we think about school and how we engage each other. Just like today, you know, we're all learning how to produce good Zoom presentations, and we're learning as we're going. Okay, just a couple final thoughts on making a decision to go to grad school and how to connect career to a graduate program. You know, if you looked on CSU's graduate certificate website, you wouldn't have to commit 2 years to going to graduate school, you know, whether it involved a thesis or not. But there are a lot of great certificate programs that could give you additional education without you making such a financial and time commitment. I think the important part is getting experience and really committing to doing something post-undergraduate. Any experience, even if it's not related to your undergraduate degree, is going to help round you out. It's going to help you figure out what your next steps are in your career, and maybe that does involve graduate school. And so checking in with yourself, as we started out in this presentation, what are your values? What do you care about? Who are the people and the questions that you want to work with in the world of work? We can help you figure that out at the Career Center through assessment, as I mentioned earlier. Again, you need resources to make this a good decision. So your faculty, your advisors, your counselors on campus who you interact with, they can help in giving you feedback. Again, you can't just think about this question and come to an answer. It's hard to do that. So use your resources. Consider this decision in the long term. COVID will be over soon. If you are a first-year student at CSU right now, you know, the economy will probably rebound in 2003, right? So think long term. A lot of my students are asking me right now, Chase, should I pursue a graduate degree? I don't want to do online classes within my graduate program. And I think, you know, if that's not your style, that's a great decision to make, because at some point we'll have a vaccine, hopefully. At some point this will be over and we'll be meeting back in class again. So think long-term in your decision-making as it relates to graduate school and using our great resources on campus. All right, let me pause again. I've been talking at you, and I had a couple of polls that I wanted to, use, but I think with the number that we have here today, you know, it probably didn't make much sense. So out of everything you've heard, we've talked about the two ways to make this decision. Who are you as an individual? Your values, how do you want to spend your time? And using resources on campus to determine the path into graduate school. My last slide for today in continuing this conversation is we have another event coming up next week. More on the line of preparing to go to graduate school. So throughout your week, as you listen to these recorded presentations, as you engage in the great content that you're going to be seeking, as you make the decision on, okay, I think I want to go to graduate school, what do I need to make that happen? Please come to Gear Up for Graduate School, November 5th. We'll be talking about financing graduate school, how to make that decision, should I or should I not go? We'll have a panel of 3 graduate students who are going through graduate school right now. One student who's applying to vet school for the 2nd time, another student who is a political science major in the College of Liberal Arts, and a student affairs graduate student talking about their experiences, what they've noticed, how they're paying for it, and what's it like to get through, you know, graduate school. And then we have another session on your application materials. What do you need? You need personal statements. You need recommendations from your people that you've worked with in the past and faculty members. You need a resume as well. And the Career Center can help you with all of those bits of application materials. So please come to Gear Up for Graduate School. It's an event you can come to, get what you want, and leave if you want to as well. So thanks for your time today. It's been great even with our small group. Wishing you all the best. Please reach out to the Career Center if you have questions on anything that you've heard today, or you're interested in taking your next steps in pursuing graduate school. Thanks, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chase, for presenting. Now we're going to open it up for anyone. If you have questions, feel free to use the chat or speak aloud. I know some people just joined. So we'll give about 2 or 3 minutes for that.
I guess I have a quick question. So like, I just started thinking about grad school. I'm a senior, and I'm the kind of person, I kind of like to just go straight through. Like, I don't like to take a break, because then I think, oh, well, I'll just get used to not being in school and I won't want to go back, and it'll be hard to transition again. But like, if you're saying that they value like hands-on experience and stuff, I'm kind of thinking, well, maybe I should just try to get like a really good internship or something after I get my degree. So like, what would be your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think you know, there's two aspects of making that decision that can really help in the long term. Number one, if you get some great experience, you're going to be a better candidate for graduate school. And number two, you're going to have more experience in deciding what you want to do in graduate school. I think that's the big problem as undergraduates are coming out of undergrad, is they're wondering what, they've been a student for the last 4 years and they haven't been exposed to, other, experiences, internship or jobs that require an undergraduate degree. And so, I think as college students, we're always in a hurry. We always are looking to get to the next thing. But if you spend a little time thinking about this, it deserves some patience, because I can't tell you how many students, master's, PhD, and vet students who come to me in December after they've made it through their first semester of school and they're regretting making that decision. And it's a huge amount of money, right? It's a huge amount of money to dump into something that you're not 100% sure about. Will you ever be 100% sure about if this was right for you? No, but you can get to 70% and 75%. So if you added an internship, couple years of experience, you'd be a better candidate. You'd be able to make that decision if grad school was right for you. Here's the caveat for that. Professional school requires you to have that credential before you can work in the field. And so if it was, for example, a radio technologist, or if it was a CPA, or if it was something that required a level of expertise, then that's a different question, because that is allowing you to go work in that field, and that's opening up the gate so you can pursue that career. If it's just more curriculum and just more classes, then that is definitely a different discussion, right? Because you're not getting more experience, you're getting more experience in the classroom. And again, right now, I feel like, and this has been kind of the case over the last couple of years, that's why these boot camps have popped up. Google University has popped up, because the marketplace right now is seeking more hands-on experience from college graduates coming off campus. Even the academic programs at CSU are having to evolve a bit to incorporate internships, to incorporate experiential learning. What's your major right now?
Well, so I'm actually a language major right now, and I literally have no idea what I'm going to do with that, because
Right.
like, I don't know, I'm still having trouble deciding, because it feels really specific. Like I'm doing Spanish, so I know that is like helpful in like a lot of different fields, but I just don't know like where I want to take that. So, but now you got me thinking about healthcare, so I might explore something in that, but I don't know.
Yeah, think about the applications of a foreign language within the COVID response right now. There's a lot of applications there. There's a lot of applications there within healthcare. And if you are having, your education manager is Kelsey Schultz. She's excellent. She has been on board Career Center, I think, for about 8 months now. She was in the office for about a month before COVID happened. But connect with your career education manager. This is what we think about all day long, is how to connect you with jobs that you haven't thought about, and how, for example, your major in language can apply to jobs that exist right now and will exist tomorrow. So it's hard to figure it out with a Google search, right? It's hard to just think about it and come up with an answer. So go in and talk to someone at the Career Center, your career education manager, and starting that conversation. When's your graduation date?
Well, so I'm taking a year off right now because I didn't want to do online classes. Big surprise. So I'm hoping for spring of 22, I think.
Okay, great. So you're at the perfect moment in your academic career to start seeking things outside of the classroom. Internship, talking with your career education manager, and connecting with people coming to events is critical that the Career Center has. Come to our Gear Up for Grad School event. We're going to be talking about these topics today, but in a more specialized way. your career education manager is running that session on should I go to graduate school or not. So that would be a great time to connect with her, Kelsey. Cheers. Thanks for the question, Emily. Do you recommend getting more experience before graduate school, looking to get a master's in social work? You know, social work is one of those unique fields that in order to really pursue all the opportunity that social work has, getting a master's in social work is probably going to be something that you want to do. And typically that's going to usually encompass a practicum and an internship. And so that degree program would qualify for one of those that you're getting really good hands-on experience that you can apply right away out of graduate school. And like I mentioned earlier, social work is growing exponentially, especially as it relates to the pandemic. Great question. And so now you're thinking about social work, come to Gear Up for graduate school, and we'll talk about that personal statement, getting that resume ready, and all those steps that you need to take in making your best application.
Thank you, Chase. Do we have any last minute questions for today? Well, thank you, Chase, for presenting for us. I know we all learned a lot, and thank you everyone for attending. This session will be recorded, so we'll go ahead and send this to you if you missed any pieces of it. But if not, thank you so much, and we can stay on here a few more minutes to answer any last minute questions you all have.
Yep. Thank you, Letty, for having me. It's been great.